was a Thursday night at the Ember Room, a half-forgotten bar tucked between a pawn shop and a 24-hour laundromat on Chicago's South Side. The kind of place that smells like whiskey, sweat, and secrets, each table sticky with stories no one dares to tell twice. I was just doing what I always do, dancing to survive, not to be seen. Hello, my name is Riley Monroe, and I didn't mean to go viral. I didn't even know someone was filming. The night had started slowly. Rain against the windows, the hum of a broken neon sign flickering open and opa like it couldn't make up its mind. My shift was almost over when the DJ's playlist glitched, looping a bass line that throbbed like a heartbeat gone wrong. The other dancers laughed, shrugged, and walked off for smoke breaks. But something about that beat got under my skin. It wasn't a song anymore, it was a pulse, and maybe I needed to move. Not for tips, not for the crowd, but for myself, for the girl I used to be before life caged her in the dark corners of this city. I stepped onto the floor barefoot. No routine, no choreography, just breath and rhythm. My body moved before my mind caught up, arms slicing through air, hips rolling like a wave fighting gravity. The lights strobed red and gold, catching sweat on my collarbone like drops of mercury. I wasn't performing, I was confessing. That's when I felt it, eyes on me, not just the usual ones. These were sharper, focused, watching in a way that made my spine prickle. I glanced around, but the room was a blur of smoke and silhouettes. I kept dancing. Later, I'd find out there was a man at the back booth, phone lifted slightly above the table, recording me through a half-empty glass of bourbon. That clip would travel faster than I ever could. By morning, I woke to my phone, buzzing nonstop. Messages, tags, comments. The video, just 47 seconds long, had been shared over 2 million times overnight. They called me the girl in the gold light. Who is she? Where is this place? Is she even real? The internet built me a mythology I didn't ask for. I became a mystery, wrapped in pixels. But beneath the glitter of attention, there was something else, something darker in the replies. Anonymous accounts are asking strange questions. Not what I danced, but why. People claiming to recognize the movements. One comment still haunts me. I've seen that routine before. It's not random. It's a signal. At first, I laughed it off. A signal? What kind of signal comes from a broke bar dancer in Chicago? But then, an account with no profile photo sent me a private message. No greeting, no context, just 4 words. We found you, Riley. My throat went dry. My real name wasn't public. The bar's roster didn't post it online. I performed under a fake name, Nova. So how did they know? By the 3rd day, news outlets were running headlines like "Mystery Dancer Mesmerizes the Internet" and "Viral Sensation or Stage Delusion." Talk shows replayed the clip frame by frame, breaking down every flick of my wrist, every turn of my head, as if decoding a message I didn't know I was sending. But I couldn't stop watching it myself. In slow motion, my movements didn't feel like me anymore. The way I tilted my head, the sync of my steps, it was too familiar, too specific, like muscle memory from another life. And then it hit me. Years ago, before all this, I used to be part of a street performance crew, The Frame. We were young, hungry, wild, but what we called art had shadows behind it. Some of the choreography wasn't dance at all. It was communication, codes, coordinates, the way a foot pivoted, a hand gestured. It could mean a place, a time, a target. I'd buried that past when I ran. Changed cities, changed names, changed everything. But watching that clip, I realized I hadn't buried it deep enough. My body had remembered, and someone out there had recognized it. That night, the Ember Room was busier than ever. Cameras everywhere, strangers pretending to be fans. A reporter from the Chicago Tribune bought a drink just to stand near me. The bartender Carla kept whispering, "You okay, honey?" But I couldn't answer. Every flash of a phone felt like a crosshair. At 10:43 p.m., a man walked in. Gray suit, clean shoes, expressionless face. He didn't drink, didn't look at the stage, just sat at the back booth, the same booth from the video. He watched the crowd, not the performance. When the music stopped, he stood, left a card on the counter, and walked out into the rain. I picked it up. No agency name, no phone number, just a logo, 3 interlocked triangles. Something in my chest twisted. That symbol. I'd seen it before. Years ago, spray painted behind a warehouse in Detroit. The mark of the people we used to dance for, the ones who turned art into currency, and girls like me get into messages. I didn't go home that night. I wandered the city until dawn, crossing bridges, ducking under streetlights that hummed like static. My phone kept buzzing new followers, sponsors, agents. Everyone wanted a piece of the girl in the gold light. But all I could think about were those 4 words. We found you, Riley. It wasn't fame that found me. It was my past, and it was coming fast. The rain didn't stop for 3 days. Neither did the messages. By then, my face was everywhere, clipped, filtered, looped, slowed down to the tempo of obsession. I'd gone from a nobody in a smoky bar to a name whispered on radio stations and morning shows. They said my movements were unlike anything they'd ever seen. If only they knew how right they were, because I hadn't created that dance. I'd remembered it. Every time I replayed the viral clip, I caught details I wished I hadn't, tiny gestures coded deep into my muscle memory. A half turn of the wrist that meant meeting point. A slide step that meant confirmed. Movements that weren't meant for art, but for signaling. And someone, somewhere, was watching with perfect fluency. On the 4th night, he came back. Same man, same gray suit. This time, he ordered a drink, a neat bourbon, and waited until I finished my set. The bar was louder than usual, packed with people who didn't belong there. Sleek city types, journalists, talent scouts pretending to be casual. The Ember Room had turned into a feeding ground. When I walked past him, he didn't look up right away, just swirled his drink, the ice clinking softly, like a metronome counting down something inevitable. Then he said, almost under his breath, "You dance like someone who's trying to remember." I froze. He smiled, small, deliberate. "My name's Graham. I represent talent. And Riley." He said my name like it was a secret he wasn't supposed to know. "You've been very hard to find." He slid another card across the bar, this one black, embossed with silver. No phone number again, just a logo, the same 3 triangles. I didn't touch it, didn't speak, didn't breathe. He leaned closer, voice calm and certain. "You don't need to be afraid, not of me. You've already sent the message." Then he stood, dropped cash on the counter, and walked out into the rain. I remember Carla grabbing my arm the second he left. "You know that guy?" I shook my head. "Well, he sure as hell knows you. He's been here twice this week, asking when you dance. Didn't even blink when I told him you were off Tuesday. Said, she'll come in anyway. And damn it, you did." That's when it hit me. I hadn't planned to come that night. I'd almost stayed home, but something made me go, like I was following a script someone else had already written. That realization chilled me. When I got home, the city was silent, except for sirens in the distance. I locked the door, shut the curtains, and sat on the floor with that black card staring up at me like a loaded gun. I should have thrown it away, burned it. But curiosity, no. Fear made me flip it over. On the back, in faint silver print, a single line read, "Call when you remember." No number, no address, just those words. And then, as if the world was listening, my phone buzzed. Unknown number, no caller ID. I didn't answer, but a voicemail came through a man's voice. Calm, deep, deliberate. "Riley, you shouldn't be scared. You were one of the best. We just want you back. This time, we pay in recognition, not silence." The line went dead. I tried to tell myself it was a scam, a prank, the kind of creepy internet fallout that happens when someone's 15 seconds of fame spin out of control. But the next morning, there was a package at my door. No return address, just my name, handwritten. Inside, a USB drive, a folded piece of paper, and a single Polaroid photo. The photo was of me, taken years ago, younger, thinner, standing in front of a graffiti-marked wall that bore the same 3 triangles. On the paper, one word, home, and on the USB, when I finally plugged it in, was a video file labeled Rehearsal 47 MP4. It was footage from my past, from the frame, from before everything went wrong. There we were, me and 6 others, dancing in an abandoned train station. Same movements as my viral clip, same sequence, except this time, halfway through, the camera panned past us to the edge of the platform, where 2 men in suits were exchanging a small black case. The dance had covered the drop. We weren't performers, we were distractions. And I had just repeated the same coded routine on camera for millions to see. That night, I didn't go to work. I turned off my phone, packed a duffel bag, and tried to disappear. But it's hard to vanish when the world keeps posting your face. Everywhere I went, someone recognized me. The girl from TikTok, the mystery dancer, the viral sensation. And in every crowd, every reflection, every passing car window, I kept seeing him. Graham, the gray suit, the stillness, the eyes that didn't blink. Around midnight, Carla called me in a panic. Riley, there's a guy here asking for you again. He says he's your manager. I don't have a manager. Well, he says you do now. Did he leave a name? She hesitated. He said you'd remember him by his tattoo. My heart stuttered. I knew which tattoo she meant. The triangles. I told her to lock the doors, to call the cops. But by the time they arrived, the man was gone, and so was the security footage. Every camera feed from the bar had been wiped clean, all except one. The back alley camera, grainy, flickering, showed a gray blur standing by the dumpster, holding his phone to his ear. For a brief second, the feed glitched, and his face turned toward the lens. He was smiling, and then, clear as day, his lips moved. No sound, just words. We found you. That was the night I stopped running, because maybe this wasn't about escape anymore. Maybe it was about answers. If they wanted me back so badly, maybe it was time I found out why. If you're still listening, it means you've seen the videos, you've read the headlines, but you don't know me. Not really. At least, that's who I became. But before I was Riley, before I scrubbed my past clean and learned to blend in, I was someone else. Liraval. And I wasn't just a dancer. I was a messenger. Chicago wasn't my first city. I'd already lived through 3 others: Detroit, Pittsburgh, and New Orleans, each one leaving a scar you can't see. Back then, I belonged to The Frame, a performance collective that started as art and decayed into something criminal. We called ourselves storytellers in motion, but what we were really doing was hiding messages in plain sight. Our choreography wasn't random. Every movement had meaning. A tilt of the head, meet here. A flick of the wrist, package delivered. A 2-step turn, mission confirmed. It was genius. Really hiding communication inside rhythm. To the public, we were avant-garde dancers. To the ones paying us, we were couriers. We called the system Motion Cipher, and I was their best translator. I was 19 when I joined, homeless, hungry, desperate to belong. One night, I was performing in the subway tunnels, dancing for spare change. That's when he found me. A man named Lucian Gray, tall, elegant, always dressed in black, like he'd stepped out of a photograph from another time. He said he could see the rhythm in my blood. He offered me a place in his troupe food, a roof, money, purpose. All I had to do was dance. I thought it was a miracle. It was a contract. We started with underground shows, abandoned factories, rooftops, old theaters. But our audience wasn't made up of art lovers. It was men in suits, women in sunglasses. They'd watch us perform in silence, then leave envelopes behind. Lucian said it was patronage, But it didn't take long to realize those envelopes didn't contain donations. They contained names, routes, and coordinates. We weren't performing for applause. We were delivering codes. And every time I danced, someone somewhere made a move, illegal, precise, deadly. When I finally understood what the frame was, it was too late. We were in deep. Surveillance, smuggling, data drops. Lucien used our choreography as a global cipher, one that couldn't be intercepted because it was never written down. And I was his muse, his decoder. He called me the vessel. Your body remembers what the mind forgets, he'd whisper. That's why you'll never be free of it. I tried to run once. New Orleans, 2017. We had a performance in an old opera house, and during the second act, I slipped off stage, changed clothes, and fled through a fire exit. I remember the smell of wet brick, the sound of distant jazz, the way my pulse beat in time with the rain. I made it to the bus station, bought a ticket under a new name, Riley Monroe. When I arrived in Chicago 2 days later, I burned everything, clothes, ID, the silver pendant Lucien had given me. I thought I was done, but you can't burn muscle memory. And when I danced that night in the Ember Room, the night the video went viral, I wasn't performing something new. I was repeating rehearsal 47, the same coded choreography I'd learned years ago, the same one tied to that black market drop, the same one they'd never forgotten. So when the clip hit the internet, it wasn't fame that came looking for me. It was Lucien. I started noticing them again, the watchers, always at the edge of a crowd, always too still. Sometimes they'd leave things behind, a flower on my table, a note that read, "We still see you." But the worst was the night I came home to find my apartment door slightly open. Inside, everything looked untouched. Nothing stolen, nothing moved, except for one thing, a photograph. It was the same photo from the USB, me, and the frame in the Detroit warehouse. But this time, there was something new drawn in red ink, a circle around my face, and underneath it, "Come home, Lyra." That night, I didn't sleep. I replayed every memory, every lie, every escape. Whoever Graham was, if that was even his name, he wasn't just some recruiter. He was part of the old system, maybe even sent by Lucien himself. I needed to know how far they'd reached, so I did the only thing I could. I went back. 2 days later, I returned to the old subway station where I'd first met Lucien. It was abandoned now, the tracks long dead, the walls painted over with graffiti and mildew. But as I walked deeper into the tunnel, I saw at the mark 3 interlocking triangles, faint but visible, drawn in ash. And underneath, written in that same looping hand, I could never forget, "You never stopped dancing." My breath caught, because he was right. Even after all the running, the hiding, the changing of names, I still carried their rhythm. Every move I made, every shift of my weight, it all belonged to the frame. And maybe that was the real prison, not being trapped by them, but inside them. I heard a sound, then soft, echoing footsteps behind me, slow, deliberate. I turned, heart hammering. A figure stepped out of the shadows. Gray suit, same stillness, same unreadable calm. Graham. He stopped a few feet away, his voice low and patient. "Lucien misses you, Lida." I took a step back. "He's dead." A pause. A smile that didn't reach his eyes. "Then who do you think sent me?" For a moment, the tunnel lights flickered. My pulse synced with them, steady, fast, wrong. I realized then that the past I'd buried hadn't just been watching me. It had been waiting for me to move again, to send another message. And by dancing that night in the Ember Room, I already had. That was the night I stopped asking why they found me and started asking what they wanted me to do next. When I woke up the next morning, the city was already watching me, not metaphorically, literally. Posters, headlines, feeds, my name had become currency. The dancer of the underground, the girl who moved the internet. Everywhere I looked, I saw my face polished, pixelated, stolen, and for the first time, I realized maybe going viral wasn't an accident. Maybe it was an invitation. 2 days after the tunnel, after Graham's voice followed me into my dreams, I got an email. Subject line, "We'd love to have you audition." It was from a talent agency I'd never heard of, Echelon Entertainment. Sleek logo, high-end address in Los Angeles, an NDA attached, and a promise that your story deserves a stage. Normally, I would have deleted it, but they wrote something in the body that stopped my breath cold. "We were impressed by your performance at the Ember Room, especially your interpretation of Sequence 47. It takes a rare instinct to remember choreography that complex." Sequence 47. That wasn't just a routine. It was our code, a phrase that didn't belong to the world of art at all. It belonged to the frame. I almost dropped my phone. My fingers trembled as I scrolled. The email ended with one line. "You already know where to find us." No address, no number, just those words. I knew exactly what they meant. There's an old art warehouse on the west side, the Orium building, before the frame went underground. We used to train there. It was Lucien's kingdom of mirrors, the place where every dancer learned to move without question. I hadn't set foot near it in 5 years, but that night I went back. The streets were empty when I arrived. The Orium looked abandoned, cracked windows, rusted doors, graffiti choking its name. But the lights inside still worked, dim, gold, pulsing faintly like a heartbeat. I slipped through a side entrance. The air inside was thick with dust and memory. Everywhere I looked, ghosts danced. Not real ones, reflections of who we'd been. I could almost hear the music again, smell the sweat and stage paint, feel the way Lucien's gaze used to cut through the dark. I walked deeper. That's when I saw the stage. They'd rebuilt it, clean, polished, lit by a single spotlight. In the center, waiting for me, was a black envelope. I picked it up. My name, Lyra Vale, was written across the front. Inside was a flash drive and a note. "Audition starts now. Show us what you remember." I didn't notice the red light blinking on the wall until it was too late. A camera, recording. My hands shook. I should have run. I should have destroyed the drive and vanished. But curiosity, or maybe compulsion, took over. I plugged the flash drive into the nearby console. Music filled the air. Soft, electronic, pulsing. I knew it immediately. It was our song, the same one Lucien used for rehearsal 47. My body reacted before my mind could resist. The rhythm crawled under my skin, rewiring me. My arms moved. My feet followed. My breath synced with the bass. Every motion was muscle memory, sharp, deliberate, coded. Each twist of my wrist, each drop of my shoulder sent messages into the air. I wasn't dancing anymore. I was transmitting, and I didn't know who was watching. Halfway through, the lights flared. A projector on the far wall flickered to life. It wasn't a mirror this time. It was a feed. Multiple screens, faces, in shadow, watching, taking notes. I froze mid-step. Then a voice filled the room, not from a speaker, but from everywhere. "You never lost it, Lyra." My blood went cold. I knew that voice. Lucien. But that was impossible. He'd been reported dead in 2019. A warehouse fire in Detroit. 7 bodies, burned beyond recognition. Except no DNA records were ever confirmed. I looked up at the camera. My voice cracked. "Where are you?" "Closer than you think." A figure stepped into the light behind the screens. It wasn't Graham. It wasn't anyone I recognized. But he wore Lucien's pendant, the one I'd burned years ago. He smiled. Lucien built the frame to last beyond himself. His work continues. I stumbled backwards. "You're using me. You used yourself. The world's eyes are already on you, Lyra. Every movement you make spreads faster than any encrypted signal. You've become the perfect carrier." I felt sick. The video, the viral clip. We didn't make you famous, Lyra. You did that. We just needed the world to watch. And now they are. The music stopped. The lights died. Then, on the main screen, my viral video began playing. Except this version wasn't the same one from the internet. This one had overlays, diagrams, coordinates, maps of shipping routes and storage facilities synced perfectly to my movements. My dance had activated something, a signal, a transmission hidden inside every repost, every upload. The entire world had unknowingly shared a coded message for the frame, and I was the source. The floor beneath me creaked. I turned, and there he was, Graham, silent, calm, standing just behind me. He said nothing, just reached into his coat and placed something on the stage. My old silver pendant, the one I'd burned. Except it wasn't burned at all. It was pristine. Lucien doesn't need you to come home, Graham said softly. He just needs you to keep dancing. Something snapped inside me. All the fear, the guilt, the manipulation, it condensed into something sharp, something furious. I grabbed the pendant and hurled it at the camera. The lens cracked. Sparks burst from the console. "Tell him I'm done," I shouted. "Tell him I don't dance for ghosts." The power flickered, alarms blaring. I ran through corridors of light and shadow, through echoes of the past that clawed at my mind. By the time I hit the street, it was raining again. Cold, relentless, just like the night it all began. But as I looked up at the city skyline, I saw it dozens of digital billboards flashing the same looping clip, me dancing, my image, my movement, my code, and across the bottom of every screen, a new caption appeared, one I'd never seen before. "The frame returns coming soon." That was when I realized the truth. They didn't need to find me anymore. They'd already recreated me, and now the whole world was dancing to my signal. If you're hearing this, then the broadcast worked. If you're not, then it means they got to me first. Either way, this will be my last performance. 3 weeks after the Orium incident, I disappeared. No interviews, no more appearances. The internet called it a mystery hiatus. They said I was negotiating contracts, that I was strategically silent. They didn't know the truth. I was hiding. Every time I opened my laptop, I could feel them, the frame inside the code. Every file, every feed, every platform. Lucien's legacy had become an algorithm, a living network of watchers and decoders, and my dance was still its language. Every repost, every remix of that viral clip, each one was sending data through gestures that only the frame could read. They had turned my body into a weapon and the world into a distribution channel. But what they didn't know was that I could rewrite the rhythm. It started small. I reached out to Carla, the bartender, the only person left who still called me Riley instead of Lyra. She didn't ask questions. She just listened, and when I told her what the frame really was, she went pale. Then she said something that changed everything. "If they used your dance to send messages, can't you use it to send one back?" That's when the idea was born. A counter-performance. One final signal. Broadcast through the same channels they'd hijacked, but this time, to expose them, I called it the last frame. We would stream it live from an undisclosed location, using the frame's own servers. If I danced their language in reverse, literally reversed every gesture, every coded sequence, it would corrupt the data pathways they'd built. A virus in the form of movement. But it had to be public. It had to look like art. So I reached out to every media contact who'd ever tried to interview me, every influencer who'd ever used my video. I told them I was doing one final show, a farewell performance. They took the bait. Within 24 hours, the announcement went viral. Millions of people are waiting to see the return of the girl in the gold light. They thought it was a comeback. It was an execution. The night of the broadcast, the warehouse was lit like a cathedral floodlights. Drones, red velvet curtains. Everything is perfectly staged. I stepped onto the stage barefoot again, just like that first night. Gold lights washed over me, blurring the edges of reality. But this time, I wasn't alone. In the back of the room, Carla monitored the servers. Every frame of the stream was being rerouted through encrypted layers we'd built to trace their signal. If the frame logged in to watch, and we knew they would, we'd catch them. I looked into the camera and whispered, "This is for those who move unseen." Then the music began. It wasn't their rhythm. Not anymore. I'd taken rehearsal 47 and reversed it every step backwards, every motion inverted. At first, it looked beautiful, hypnotic. Millions watching live thought it was art, but inside the code, something else was happening. The algorithms that had once decoded my movements began to break. The feed stuttered. Data bled into static. And then, a sound I'll never forget. The distortion wasn't just in the stream. It was coming from the walls. The warehouse lights flickered violently. Static poured from the speakers. Carla shouted something, but the mic cut out, and over the chaos, I heard a voice. Lyra, Lucian's voice. The screens lining the walls came to life. There he was, not in flesh, but in flickering blue light, his old recordings spliced together, animated by the system he'd built. A ghost made of data. "You think you can erase me?" his voice said. "You are me." I kept dancing. Faster now, harder. Each movement punches holes in the feed. Every turn, every spin, corrupted another layer of his signal. "Stop," the voice demanded. "You'll destroy yourself." I didn't stop, because maybe that's what it took. The cameras overheated. Sparks fell like golden snow. The room blurred between light and darkness. I could feel it, the system collapsing, frame by frame. Lucian's voice fractured, breaking into static screams. And then silence. The lights burst. The music died. The stream went black for exactly 6 seconds. Then it came back on, and I was standing there breathing, trembling, covered in sweat and flickering light. I looked straight into the camera, straight into every screen in the world. "You wanted the dancer," I said. "You got the message." Then I stepped off stage and killed the feed. The aftermath was chaos. Half the internet thought it was performance art. The other half thought it was a meltdown. But buried inside that final stream, hidden in the reversed sequence, was everything. Coordinates, names, transaction records, and archived footage from years of the frame's operations, encrypted into movement, released through rhythm. By morning, federal servers were flooded with anonymous data dumps. And the frame's network, it was gone. Lucian's name vanished from every search index. Graham disappeared. The triangles stopped appearing. And I went quiet. Sometimes, late at night, I still feel the rhythm in my hands, a ghost pulse that reminds me I was once part of something powerful, something monstrous. But I also remember the silence that followed, the stillness, the freedom. Maybe I'll never dance again, or maybe I'll dance somewhere no one's watching, where movement belongs only to me. My name is Riley Monroe. Once, they called me the girl in the gold light, but that's not who I am anymore. Now, I move only when I choose to, and when I do, the world won't know what it means. The desert doesn't have Wi-Fi. That's the first thing you notice when you're trying to disappear. No signal, no servers, no noise, just wind carving secrets into sand. That's where I've been. 6 months since the last frame. 6 months since the night I killed a ghost made of code and rhythm. The world moved on faster than I expected. The Gold Light Challenge trended for 2 weeks straight, then vanished beneath another viral storm. People still upload edits of that last dance, my last dance, but they don't know what it costs or what it broke. They say art is immortality, but immortality is just the inability to rest. I live in a trailer now, off Route 93, where the highway dissolves into desert. Carla visits sometimes with groceries and stories from the city. She's the only one who still calls me by my real name. "You're like a ghost story now," she said last week. "People claim they've seen you in subway reflections or backstage mirrors." I laughed, but there's truth in that, because every few nights I do dance again. No cameras, no lights, just the hum of the generator and a cracked mirror I pulled from a junkyard. I dance not to be seen, but to remember who I was before they turned me into something they could use. The movements have changed. Slower, raw, no gold light, no triangles, no hidden signals, just the sound of breath and the rhythm of a heart still learning to trust itself. But sometimes the world reaches back. 2 nights ago, I found something strange. On the old TV I keep for static, that endless gray snow that hums when there's nothing left to broadcast. A flicker appeared. Not much, just 3 frames, a hand, a silhouette, and a voice I thought I'd erased. "Lyra?" Then it was gone. I stared at the screen until sunrise, half expecting the signal to return. It didn't, but I couldn't shake the feeling that somewhere, buried in a forgotten server, Lucien's ghost was still pulsing fragments of him trapped in the digital dark. Maybe the frame isn't gone. Maybe it just went deeper. The next day, I packed, not to run, but to move. I've spent too long being afraid of what my art can do. Maybe it's time to use it again, on my own terms. Carla tried to stop me. She said, "You can't fight ghosts, Riley. You can only outlive them." But I'm not fighting. I'm rewriting. If you're reading this, you'll find a USB buried under the floorboard of the old warehouse. It holds the final version of the last frame, unedited, uncompressed, frame by frame. It's still alive, still moving, and somewhere inside it, there's a message I never got to finish. The last words Lucien ever said to me weren't "stop." They were whispered, almost pleading. They're watching me too. I didn't understand it then, but maybe that's what this was all along. A chain of creators trapped in their own creations. A system feeding on the very people who tried to express themselves. So I'll find them, the ones still caught inside, and I'll show them a new rhythm, one that doesn't consume or control or command, just movement, pure and free. The desert wind picks up. I tie my hair back, step outside the trailer. The sky is violet and endless. I start to dance. No music, no spotlight, just dust and horizon. Each step leaves a print that disappears a moment later. Nothing viral, nothing lasting. And maybe that's the point, because the only art that can't be corrupted is the kind that refuses to be captured. Hello again. My name is Riley Monroe, and this time, I'm not hiding. I'm moving, and the world will have to catch up.